the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. It's a Thursday edition of the program. We got a good one lined up for you. We got Zach Abolverdi going to be talking Gator recruiting, what's going on out there with the virtual recruiting deals going on. Second portion of the program, going to be joined by former Gator running back Ciatrick Fason. Many people know him as C4. We'll talk a little bit about his career, what he's doing now over in the Jacksonville area. We had a little change of scheduling for tomorrow, Friday's program. Originally, we had Chris DeMarco, former PGA Tour player, now on the Senior Tour. He is going to join us next Friday. So tomorrow we're going to have Michael Collins from ESPN, former caddy on the tour, join us in the first portion of the show. And then we're going to be joined by former offensive lineman Deke Story, who was part of the national championship years under Coach Steve Spurrier. While we're waiting for Zach to log in, don't forget, folks, you can follow and like us. Basically, follow us on Facebook Live. You can also check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts as well. If you want to send us a text today on the Titan MR text line, that number is 352-353-7465. You can also hit us up on Facebook Live. Let's get to the Titan MR hotline, and we're joined by Zach Abolverdi. Good morning, Zach. How are you? Zach, are you there?
You should be able to hear me now.
All right, my man. Technology, buddy. How's it going?
This is only my second Zoom meeting, so
that is unbelievable. You're a youngster in this business, and I can't believe you've only done two. This is your second Zoom meeting. That's amazing.
I mean, I have no reason to do it, so I'm not getting on there, you know. And the first time the only reason I did it the first time is because Dan Mullen was holding the presser, and then when I got on, I was signed in as my son's name because he's on Zoom all the time. He was on Zoom all the time for his school. So I think the first 5 minutes I was in there, they didn't even know who I was. So, but no, it's I mean, this is the way of the world right now, isn't it, Shane?
No doubt about it. Zach, let everyone know, I can't remember if we've had you on since you've made a transition working for someone else now.
Yeah. I'm now at with Rivals.com at Gators territory, their senior staff writer. So I cover the team now primarily. You know, I'll still, dibble and dabble in recruiting. Do a commitment video here or there, but I'm really looking forward to this season because I would have been going to all the away games and everything that's going to go on. Hopefully, I don't think they're going to have SEC media days, but they might have some semblance of that. I think they might do everything maybe on campus. I know that's something that Pat Dooley has suggested, which I think would be a good idea. But I'm, just going to be covering everything from the team side of things moving forward. And, it's exciting, but it's also, I'm kind of, chomping at the bit to get after it because we haven't had any sports going on.
Yeah, it's been rough. So having not covered recruiting now, you think you're going to miss that part? I mean, you'll still.
So it's funny. I do want to say, rest in peace to Ed Ashoff, man. He was a guy that really motivated me to get even into journalism and pursue it as a career. And it was because he covered recruiting for the Gainesville Sun. And then I went from reading him, looking up to him, to working with him one day. And that was, always cool. But, he always told me that he wanted to get out of recruiting because it was a young man's game. And that's what he did. So I kind of always had to go for myself that by the time I hit 30, I was like, I'm not against obviously talking to recruiting, but man, to do it like some of these other guys do it, where it's just a daily grind, you're hitting up prospects, you're going to high schools. I mean, it's tough, man. It is a young man's game. And you got to be able to relate with the kids and stay current with, what they're going on. They might throw some, slang at you that you don't know. So I was always like, by 30 years old, man, I don't want to be talking to high school kids. I want to be covering college football teams or even the NFL. So fortunately, I've gotten to that point. But, like I said, I'll still dibble and dabble with recruiting here and there and, talk to some prospects. And I definitely, obviously, will always follow it and keep up with it because, that's a lifeline of the program. And, Corey Bender and Joseph Hastings, they do a great job covering it for Rivals at the site that I'm at now with Gators Territory.
You can follow Zach Abolverdi on Twitter at Zach Abolverdi. Zach, one last recruiting question for you, since you moved into a different field now.
Now, besides that, I can always answer any recruiting question that you have most of the time. If it's something specific, I might not know. But so don't ever hold back if you need to know something.
Okay, so, let everybody know, we've talked a little bit about the virtual recruiting visits that schools are having to do right now. What do you think about that? Have they had much success doing this stuff virtually?
Well, I've always felt, and we actually had a roundtable at Gators Tour talking about this, that Florida, I would think, would do much better in these virtual tours than most programs, simply because of what they have to show off and offer. I mean, Dan Mullen actually talked about it yesterday on the Pat McAfee show, what these virtual tours are, which is basically them just on Google Maps and showing them all the different places on campus. And now, obviously, once they go into a building, they'll bring in some of the teachers or academic advisors. So there's a whole process that happens with these visits. It's not like, they're just showing them, well, here's this spot, here's this spot. But at the end of the day, you don't get to really see the campus. You don't get to really build a true relationship with the coaches. So two things. I mean, despite these virtual tours happening, it hasn't stopped recruiting from being at an all-time high. I mean, Dan Mullen pointed out yesterday that the amount of commitments right now at this time of the year and in this cycle is more than double what it was this time last year, which is ridiculous. Because there's no reason that should be the case when you haven't had, kids be able to come on campus in the spring to see the spring games, to see spring practices, nor have the coaches been out on the recruiting trail going to see them during the spring evaluation period. Yet that hasn't stopped more than double the amount of commitments from happening. And Florida has been a part of that. They've still gotten commitments. They just recently added a John Kitna's son, as well as some other prospects to their class, which is a top 5 class, top 6 class, I think now. So Florida's still doing a really good job in this cycle, but you see a lot of other programs that have really been like killing it. I don't necessarily know, and Dan Mullen didn't suggest this, but I don't necessarily know if all those commitments are going to hold up once the football season starts and visits actually start taking place and these guys actually start going through a real recruiting process. I mean, I think you're going to be seeing decommitments, flips, maybe more than ever, because right now you're seeing more commitments than ever.
Speaking of the Kitna kid, John Kitna, his dad, and I were teammates one year in Cincinnati, and I was trying to figure out if my son Luke and his son ever met in the locker room, but I think Luke was about 4 or 5 when I was with the Bengals, so I don't even know. Jalen, he may have been a baby at that time, but are you surprised that Dan Mullen has 2 quarterbacks in that class now with Del Rio?
No, just because of the numbers. I think that you look, he probably always wants to have 4 quarterbacks on the roster, scholarship, and have those guys spread out, obviously. But, you go into next year, assuming Kyle Trask will have the season that he can turn pro with, you're going to have Emory Jones and Anthony Richardson as your returners. And then if you only had Carlos Del Rio, that's just 3 scholarship quarterbacks on the roster, and one of them, has never played. So God forbid one of those young guys gets hurt, and now you're just down to your starter and one other backup. So I think you need to have 4, but you now that means you got to sign 2 quarterbacks in this class. And Shane, as a former QB, I mean that's not easy to do for guys at that position that are looking at their opportunity to start and what the depth chart looks like, and if they got to come in with another quarterback in their class, I mean that's just more competition. And some guys obviously embrace that. Some guys shy away from that. So the fact that they found 2 signal callers in Del Rio and Kitna that are okay being part of the same class, they're not both, like Cam Newton, John Brantley level. So they're not 5-star, coming in really high profile. One is a 4-star, top 200, top 250 quarterback in Del Rio. Kitna's a 3-star, but you look at all the pedigree that he has and what he shows on film and what they feel like he's going to bring to the quarterback room. He's really a perfect addition. And I think if you're going to have a class where you have to take 2 quarterbacks, this is the way that you want to do it.
We're speaking with Zach Abolverdi on the Titan MRI hotline from the Crime Prevention Security System studio. Zach, before we talk about the current situation on campus and what have you, Lorenzo Lingard gets the waiver. He's eligible to play right away. What are you hearing on Justin Shorter and the Pouncey transfer?
Yeah, obviously the Lingard news is huge. Talking to Justin Shorter's dad, they're still in wait and see mode. I mean, he wasn't even really sure on all the specifics of the waiver and where things were at. So I didn't get the sense just, talking to him and necessarily, hearing from people at Florida that there's certainly the expectation that they had with Lingard. This is not a situation where there's certainly a family illness that's bringing him back or bringing him to rather the Sunshine State. So, there's some other things that went on at Penn State that would go in that waiver. If it's enough for him to get immediate eligibility, that remains to be seen. His dad didn't really seem like they cared. They are so happy that they found a school and an offense that has the passing game that Florida does, that spreads the ball around to the receivers the way that Florida does. And if he has to redshirt and, spend a year learning the system, spend a year getting coached up by Billy Gonzalez, that's, I think that's not the worst thing in the world. I think the same thing applies for Pouncey. He had a chance, I think, to maybe get come in as a graduate transfer, and that didn't happen from my understanding. So he'll need a waiver as well. And I don't think that that's a situation where there's an expectation that he necessarily is going to get it. It's one of those where he's going to submit his case and see if it holds weight with the NCAA. But we know that they're going to, they're a lot more, I think, strict now with how these waivers are going based on some of the criticism that they received last year. And fortunately for Lorenzo Lingard, they did the right thing. It is interesting though, Shane. I don't know if you saw my story, but his obviously he had to come back to Orange City because his father is on kidney dialysis, and he actually had a mild heart attack. So he's going to need a surgery, and being back closer to home is allowing Lorenzo to help his dad out and be there for his doctor appointments. And certainly the drive from Gainesville to Orange City is much shorter than it is from Coral Gables to Orange City. But for this waiver to technically get the okay, you had to not only have the illness and have the severity of it, which his dad had, but you also had to be within 100 miles of the school.
Oh, wow.
And I want to say that drive from Florida's campus to Orange City is about an hour and 45 minutes, hour and 40 minutes. So he just kind of snuck under that. But fortunately, the NCAA didn't, try to poke holes and did the right thing. And he'll be playing for the Gators this season.
Yeah. Hey, folks, refresh your vehicle and your brand with a vehicle wrap from Wrap Spot. June is your lucky month at Wrap Spot. Mention promo code Shane and receive 13% off your vehicle wrap. Visit them at wrapspot.com today. We got a question for you here, Zach, on the Facebook Live brought to you by Pound Hurt, your preferred business interruption attorneys. Jeremy wants to know, what's the chance of going 5 for 5 on the Palmetto guys?
Man, I think that it's definitely more than it's good. I mean, it's not less than 50%. And I think that the percentage might be higher that they'll get 3 or 4 of those guys. But I think that the most important thing is you make a splash there with that group. You definitely want to get the 5 stars from that bunch. You definitely want to get the linemen. They're going to help you in the SEC. But I think that Florida has, based on what they've done in Miami and just South Florida in general, they have the ability to go down there and land all 5 of those prospects. And certainly Brian Johnson, the quarterback's coach, he's done a great job recruiting the 305, along with John Herron, one of the assistant directors of player personnel. So I think that Florida's got a great shot there. They already had one of those players committed in Brashad Smith. He's still really high on the Gators, and he's just kind of wanted to go through his recruitment and check out some other schools. But Florida's still one of his favorites, if not his favorite. So having him kind of already exposed and having a relationship with the staff, if they can get him back on board, I think that's only going to help Florida's chances there.
Zach, let's talk about, the kids are going to start reporting back. A lot of them had their COVID testing and other things, and they're supposed to start back working out gradually on Monday, June 8th. How many players have you spoken with? Are they excited to get back to campus? Some are already here, I know. What are you hearing from some of the players out there?
Yeah, I mean, technically we, aren't really, supposed to be speaking with them. So I haven't really reached out. I have kind of followed along with some guys and, just seeing where they were at, because some of them have, as Shane, have continued to work out, still found ways to stay active and work towards a football season. And Dan Mullen revealed yesterday that some of those guys aren't all reporting back next week. Some have elected or just making the decision to stay home. I don't know if that's going to be for the whole month. Don't know if that'll just be for the first week or so. That wasn't specified, but he said that some guys are kind of in their routine at home with whoever it is that they're working with, be it their trainers or some former coaches, and just want to keep getting ready for the season at home and feel like that'd be a better situation. So I don't know what the number is on that. But Dan Mullen said that he was fine with that because they're still having Zoom meetings with all of the players on a regular basis. And they're, everyone's kind of, they're able to keep tabs on everybody and get ready for September 5th. So that was interesting. But, at the end of the day, I think that there's probably still a lot of players that can't wait to get back on Monday. Get back in the weight room. It's going to be probably a little weird walking around the facilities with a mask and having to follow all these protocols, but it will bring back a sense of normalcy for a lot of these guys. And I think that they and the coaching staff and everyone part of the program is looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's going to be strange because they're only going to work out in like groups of 10 to 12, and they've moved the weight room into the indoor. They're going to have the doors open and, X amount of feet between every bench or squat rack or what have you. So it is going to be totally different. Zach, Coach Mullins, you mentioned, was on a show yesterday, I believe. He said he expects to win every game. And I don't know what the Twitter world, how they responded to that. But as a player and as a former coach, you do expect to win every game. Were there people on Twitter going crazy when he said that?
Well, I saw some of his players liked it. Jaden Hill, cornerback, he definitely liked it. He goes, I love coach's mentality. But, at the end of the day, it wasn't an official prediction from Mullen. It's not like, we're going 15-0. But I tell you what, I bet that's his expectation because that was his point. He goes, I mean, if I looked at the schedule any year before the season and said, well, I don't think we're going to win that game. What message am I sending to my coaches? What message am I sending to my players? So he's an ultra competitor, and he talked about The Last Dance yesterday, and that 2-minute clip of Michael Jordan talking about how tough he was on his teammates and the way that he played the game when he got real emotional. And I think we've all seen that and heard some different people chime in. It was interesting to hear Mullen's take because he was like, I absolutely, it was one of the best things I've ever heard in my life. So I think that's, kind of his mentality and it really carries over into his coaches and his players.
Yeah. Last thing for you, Zach, and we appreciate you taking time to join us today. What are you hearing out there? I mean, obviously everybody has their own opinion. You hear this, you hear that. Right now on whatever today is, on this Thursday of the program, do you think we start college football on time?
I do think that they will be able to start on time. Does everybody start on time? Are there a few schools? hopefully not a few states or a couple states, one state that can't. Who knows? It's all speculation. It's, and as Dan Mullen said yesterday, to speak in certainties or, make, we're going to start on this exact day or we're going to have this percentage of fans in the stands is just irresponsible. I think that the likelihood of starting the season on time and everyone starting on time is much better than the likelihood of fans being in the stands, certainly at full capacity or even at a limited capacity. That I think is going to be such a fluid situation. It's going to depend on each state, obviously, each city, each community, and each university. So, and where they're at with COVID-19 by the time the season rolls around. So, I think that the ability, however, to play a game, if it's just say in a situation where there's no fans, could they still manage to be able to have a game? I think so, but Dan Mullen seemed pretty optimistic, at least in Florida, by the way that things have progressed, by the way that we're able to reopen, that, we'll see where things are a month from now. We'll see things are 3 months from now, but he feels like they're going to be able to play. He hopes that they can start on time. And, he's even hopeful that they're going to have fans in the stands. And I think that, personally, just from I think there's a way to make that happen. Hell, you have everybody, if it's still that bad, you have everyone sign a waiver and you could split up the sections of the stadium to where it's seating of 2, seating of 3, seating of 4, families together, individuals. There's a lot of ways that they can make it happen, but that's for a lot smarter people than me to figure out.
Well, Zach, we appreciate you joining us. Let everybody know where they can check out your work now.
Yeah, you guys can follow me on Twitter. Just look up my name, and you guys can read all my work at gatorsterritory.com. And we'll have a lot of stuff coming this summer, despite no sports going on. Like I said, Corey and Joseph, they crank it out with the recruiting coverage, and I got some cool team stuff coming for you guys this summer. So a lot to look forward to still.
Good stuff, Zach. Hey, man, appreciate you joining the program. Take care. We'll talk to you soon.
Appreciate it, Shane. Take care, bud.
All right, that's Zach Abolverdi. Again, you can follow him on Twitter at Zach Abolverdi. We're going to take our first time out of the program here. When we come back, we'll be joined by Ciatrick Fason, Old C4. You're watching and listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back.
Time out! Time out! Hey! Time out! Time out! Time out! There we go. Good.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills.
Let's give them something to cheer for now.
Our gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. The Best Restoration, Masters of Disasters. Pound Hurt, your preferred personal injury attorneys. Peachland Dental, Gator fans' first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Celebration Point Town Center, The Keys Grill and Piano Bar, The Digital Mortgage Guy, Adams Ribs, Cloud9 Spa, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Center State Bank, Gator Bait Media, Davis Gainesville Chevrolet, Miapa Latin Cafe, Gators Dockside, Aikido America Martial Arts and After School,
Doreen Wiebe Realtor, Caldwell Banker MM Parish,
Radware, Wrap Spot,
and Style Cuts.
If you are interested in promoting your business on this show, you can visit our website, potupwithshane.com, and click on the advertise button or call Freddie at 352-284-3733. Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
He's looking, still looking. He's going for the end zone. He's got a touchdown!
Welcome back to a Thursday edition of Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Hey, folks, at Center State Bank, we put business first. We're the largest community bank in the state of Florida and understand that small businesses need a community business partner that they can rely on. CenterState has 5 convenient Alachua County locations to serve you better. To learn more, visit centerstatebank.com. CenterState Bank, member FDIC. We're now going to go to the Titan MR hotline, and we're joined by our Gator Grade of the day. That would be Ciatrick Fason. Ciatrick, good morning. How are you, buddy?
Good morning, Shane. How you doing?
Doing well. Hope we didn't wake you up too early. How are things going over in the Jacksonville area right now with all this craziness?
It's going pretty good. You know, it's a little laid back down here, so it's not too bad. The main thing for me is just trying to keep my kids active. So at one point, I ended up moving all my weeks from this little facility I had to my house just to keep them active.
Good deal. We'll talk about what you got going on with the kids over there, but I want to go back to your young days over there in the Jacksonville Beach area playing for the Fletcher Senators. You were one of the top running backs, if not the top running back coming out the year you came out of high school. What made you choose Florida, and were there any other schools that you were close to signing with?
What made me choose Florida was the atmosphere. You know, I went to a couple places when I was a freshman and a sophomore in high school, and those at the time I thought those was great places. I went to Florida State, went to Clemson, saw Michigan State, went to a couple stadiums and was like, wow, this is great. But the first time I went into the swamp, man, it was a whole different type of ball game inside the swamp, and that's why I made my decision. And to be honest with you, no school was close to signing me but Florida. When Zook got the job, I act like a lot of schools had a chance, but they really had no chance. I really didn't consider nobody but going to Florida.
Speaking of Ron Zook, he was the head coach here. Was he the main recruiter for you over in the Jacksonville area when he was the head coach?
No, I committed under Coach Spurrier, and Coach Spurrier ended up going to Washington. Coach Larry Fedora picked up the recruitment for him. So, it wasn't really much of recruiting they had to do. They had the job a month before signing day. So it was kind of easy for those guys to get me to stay on board.
Ciatrick, when you look back at your career, first of all, what was it like playing for Ron Zook? Because everyone knows, he recruited a lot of good players here. If you look at the 2006 national championship team that Urban coached, majority of those players were Zook players. What made him such a great recruiter?
He's a player's coach, man. He cares about you, not just winning football games, but he cares about you off the field. And he used to come over to the dorm some nights, and we'd be just sitting out there. He'd just come sit with you, and that was his thing, man. He was all about his players, and he just wanted you to. If you worked hard for Ron Zook, man, you could play for Ron Zook. That was his whole thing, and he really cared about you. I had kids here ask about him all the time. He had never said how you feel about football. He always say how your kids are doing. How you doing in school, and that's what made him great. And even to this day, he'll still reach out and say a few words to me just to see how I'm doing. And that's what a great coach does, and build relationships. And I learned a few things just from playing under him on how I want to treat my players that I coach.
We got a comment here on Facebook Live brought to you by Pound Hurt, your preferred business interruption attorneys. Jeff says, Ciatrick was a smooth and elegant runner. When you look back at your playing days, was there a guy in the NFL that you grew up idolizing that you wanted to kind of model your running game after?
Not really. I grew up watching a lot of backs, and I just try to, take from each one of the backs on what they did best, and I try to create it in my own. Like I'm a young guy, but I had O.J. Simpson film, Tony Dorsett, even Chris Warren that played for Seattle because he was a taller back. Eddie George, Freddie T was when I was a freshman in high school, he was a rookie with the Jags. So, it was a lot of backs out there who I like to watch and just try to nitpick and just create it all in one, especially the taller backs, because I knew I was going to be taller than than 5'11". So, anything taller than 5'11", you're considered a big back. So I just implemented my style out for the taller backs and try to take pieces here and there from different type of players.
Speaking of taller backs, I want to say you were close somewhere around the yardage Derrick Henry had over at Yulee. When you think everybody calls you C4, they know you as C4. Did you always wear number 4? And is there a reason why you wear number 4?
Nah, it's crazy how I ended up wearing number 4. My cousins, Raheem and Khalid Abdullah, who went to Fletcher, who also played in the NFL. One played for Cleveland Browns and one played for the Cincinnati Bengals. And they were number 5. And when I got to Fletcher, I tried to wear number 5, but the quarterback was older than me and he didn't want to give up number 5. So I looked around and I was like, hey, I think I could look good in that number 4 and make number 4. And that's how I ended up wearing number 4. And I wore it all through high school, a couple years in Pop Warner, and all through college. And the nickname came from Ernest Graham. One practice, I ended up having a big run, and I was a freshman in Wills College for training camp. I was his roommate. So he was like, man, I'm not going to call you Ciatrick no more. I'm not going to call you C. I'm going to call you C4 because, kids, you're going to be explosive. All you got to do is work hard. And that's why I get the nickname from. It came from Ernest Graham.
Good stuff. What's one game here at Florida that you remember the most, maybe your most outstanding game?
Most outstanding game? Oof. Had some big games.
Yeah, there's always that one, though, or maybe it was one run that you remember the most.
I'll say I'll say LSU game in Arkansas. LSU game my sophomore year was huge because that was the pretty much game of me stepping up and being able to showcase my talents to the world. And it started C4 off, and the following week playing against Arkansas, that 75-yard touchdown that I had to start the second half with. That was probably my biggest run because it showed everybody that, hey, I'm a playmaker. So I think those 2 games was the top for me. And, of course, beating up on Florida State, Bobby Bowden Day. So, and, Florida State didn't have a 100-yard rusher for 2 or 3 years, and I went in there and did it. So I'll say those 3 games.
Gotcha. So you get drafted by the Minnesota Vikings. You go up there, play a couple of years. What was it like? I played a long time in the NFL, and I've always said, man, there is no way in the world you can pay me enough money to be a running back in that league because of the physicality, just the beating running backs take. What was it like being a running back in that league?
Man, it was crazy. My first year playing under Coach Tice, we had like 7 backs. We had a crowded backfield. We had Pro Bowlers, vets played for a long time. So, I was a role player. I was the short yardage and goal line back, which I love because I got to score touchdowns as a rookie. But, the following year, Coach Shorges came in, and, man, when I say it was brutal, it was bad. We'll go out there and hit every day, 2 times a day, scrimmage twice. It got to the point where it was veteran players like, man, we're boycotting this practice. We're not going out there. We had players that was on the sidelines taking a knee, and I'm like, man, y'all are DBs and y'all don't want to practice. Imagine how we feel and we're running back. So I agree with you, man. It's brutal. People ask me, at the time that I walked away from the game, they was like, man, why you stop playing? No, not many know I had another opportunity, but at that point I was like, you know what? I want to walk. I want to be able to walk and play with my kids when I'm late 30s, early 40s because it's brutal. I'm hitting those linebackers every day, and man, you get headaches when you first get back to hitting. After you done sat out for like 3 or 4 months, but man, having those headaches all the time just because of football, I was like, nah, it's time to walk away.
Speaking of headaches, we got a text here on the Titan MR text line. It comes from John. John wants to know, what was the hardest hit you ever took, whether it was in the pros or college?
I'll say Bob Sanders. I always tell people when we play Iowa in the Outback Bowl, they was always talking about when you meet up for those luncheons and those at the nighttime, and they was talking about Chad Greenway, and I was like, man, who is Chad Greenway? And they showed the linebacker. I was like, man, that's Chad Greenway. Man, he can't tackle me. So when we get in the game, it was like the second play of the game. I juked Chad Greenway, and right when I came out the juke, I started like high stepping and looking back at him, but I forgot about the safety. And Bob Sanders hit me right on my stomach. I mean, that was the hardest hit I ever got hit. I tell people all the time, man, Bob Sanders was a beast.
Yeah, he was. He had a long career with the Colts, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah, very good player. When you look back at your career too, Larry Fedora was the offensive coordinator most of the time, and Chris Leak was your quarterback, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. I don't know how close you are with Chris. I know him a little bit. I think the world of him. He works with the young people down in the Orlando area as well. He's our all-time leading passer, and I don't think people realize that. Just talk a little bit about him as a quarterback, your teammate, how he was in the huddle. Well, I don't know if y'all even huddle, but you know what I'm saying, his leadership.
Yeah, that kid was so calm and so poised. I was a year older than him, but when he signed with us, and the time from him signing to he had the report, he'll just show up to campus, him and his dad, and even during spring practice, he would stand behind the team and mock the plays. He'll drop back when he hear a play call and throw what he thought the first read or second read should have been, or where the ball should have went. And from that day, I knew the kid was going to be special. Being in a huddle with him, he never seems to panic. And, no matter what the scenario was, he never seemed to panic. But the great part about him, he was a great teammate. He didn't never have any confrontations with his players. He always listened. I could say, Chris, look, they got this linebacker on me, man. Look, I'm gonna make a move here, and then I'm gonna shoot here. Just hit me, and he'll throw the ball. Like, if you tell him what you said, if he trusts you, he was gonna give it to you. And that was so special about him. It's crazy. I tell people all the time, I was like, y'all need to look at his stats, man. He don't get. I don't think people rate him as they should. He's very underrated, man, as a Gator quarterback. And I tell people all the time, man, he's our all-time leading passer, man. A kid put in work while he was there. And I love Chris to death, man. I text him every now and then to mess with him and just to see what he got going on, man. He's a special kid, man. And he's a brother.
We're speaking with Ciatrick Fason right here on the Titan MR hotline from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Ciatrick, I like to ask all the former players, what was their favorite game they played in, like rivalry game? I would assume it's the Georgia game because you got to go back home in Jacksonville and play against the Dogs.
Yes, I love that Georgia game. It's in my hometown, especially my last year when I knew I was the guy. So that was a huge game for me, and I was able to come out and put on a show in front of my hometown folks. And I always loved the Florida State game, of course, and the LSU game because I always say LSU is like our Florida State within the SEC. So I mean, like the rivalry wise, because they dirty, they're gonna curse you out, do the same stuff Florida State do to you. But man, the Georgia game is special, seeing a sea of red on one side and a sea of orange and blue on the other side, and just being at home. And you get a lot of recognition when you pull up to that stadium and you're a Jacksonville guy.
Yeah, no doubt. There's no other scenery like that game when you come down off those bridges into the stadium on the bus. We got another text here from Susan on the Titan MR text line. She wants to know, what teammates do you stay in touch with the most?
Whew. I got a lot of teammates I stand with. I got the Kelvin Kites, the Nick Brooks, the Channing Crowders, the Brian Crumbs, Kyle Jackson. We're like family. So man, it's so many of them and Joe Cohen, even Reggie Nelson. His nephew played football for me. For my youth league, but it's a lot of them. Years ago, I used to do this camp called Gator Mania. I stopped it for 2 years, and hopefully I could bring it back next year. Since we had the virus this year, I'm bringing it back next year. But I invite like 20 of the guys down. I pay for their hotel rooms, and it's like a 3-day event, man. And they just give back. So, it's a lot of guys. It's a lot of guys that I didn't even play with, like younger guys like Ahmad Black and those guys like that I have a relationship with as well. So it's a lot of Gator players that I keep in touch with.
Ciatrick, I know you dabble with coaching a little high school ball here and there, but I think you started a youth program called Star Ready. Let everybody know what that's all about and what you do for the kids.
I got a youth athletic association called Star Ready Gators, to be exact. And we got 5 football team, probably between 150 and 175 kids within our association. We mentor them, we tutor them, and we try to give them experience that they might not never get just if they didn't play for us. Like, we take kids to college visits or take them to see different colleges, no matter what their age is. We try to change people's lives if they're struggling, and give them something to look forward to. Also have a basketball association that we play on the big AAU circuit. We go to live events, and the Star Ready came from, I'm already ready to be a star. No matter where you decide to go in life, you could be a star at it. You could be a star football player, star basketball player, star lawyer, star mechanic, whatever you want to be a star at, you could be a star. And that's where it all started from. We based in Jacksonville, around the South Side location, and that's what I'm doing nowadays. And just giving my time back to these kids and just trying to change their life every day.
That's good stuff. So if somebody wants to, maybe listening in the Jacksonville area and wants to get their kid involved, is there a website or something that they can go to?
Yes, I have a StarReadyAthletes.com. It's StarReadyAthletes.com. Actually, the site is being updated. For some reason, it just threw all this stuff from 2013 on it. So we're updating it, and I have a Facebook, Star Ready Athletes. I have a Twitter, Star Ready Athletes. So they definitely could look up the Facebook page, the Twitter, and the website.
All right, good stuff. Final few minutes here with Ciatrick Fason. When you look at, Florida was very successful under Urban Meyer. Then we kind of had some down years under Muschamp here and there. Dan Mullen's been back, for 2 years now. I don't know how closely, if you even know Dan, if you follow the program very closely, how often you get back. But your thoughts on, the Florida Gators in his 2 years. We've now won 21 games, 2 major bowl games. What does Ciatrick Fason see with the current football program here?
Oh man, I think we're going back to the Spurrier and Urban Meyer days. I done sat down with Dan when he was in Mississippi State recruiting a couple of our players when I was coaching at Fletcher, and got a relationship. He already knew who I was because, when he came over, him and Urban Meyer was on the same, from that staff from Utah. But yeah, Coach Mullen, man, he's doing a great job, excellent, getting all the players, and just bringing the former players back was huge. And I think he's on the up. I think within the next 2 years, we're going to win a national championship, just to be honest. That's not me just talking from me being a Gator. That's me seeing what he's doing for our program. He's getting all the players in. He's getting them to buy in. And, he got great coaching. And to get the players to buy in and get the great coaches, man, that's where it all starts from. And once you do that, it's only on the way up. And it's been showing the 2 years that he's been there so far what he's going to do.
So speaking of high school football, you still doing anything over at Fletcher, helping them out at all?
Nah, I left Fletcher. I was coaching waiting for 4 years. When the time came for, the coach retired, I didn't get the job. So it was time for me to move on. So I'm at First Coast now as the offensive coordinator and just trying to show them what I can do. But, at the end of the day, I decided I wasn't going to chase head coaching jobs no more. I'm going to just do what I do. And, God blessed me with a head coaching job, so be it. If you bless me to go take a college job, I'll look into it. But right now, I'm going to just help out at First Coast and see where God leads me.
Well, there's a saying out there that coaches influence more kids in 1 year than the average person does in a lifetime. And you're definitely doing that over in the Jacksonville area. A couple last things. We just got a text here, and it came from Joe. Joe wants to know, what was your favorite opposing stadium that you played in while as a Gator?
LSU.
Yeah, there's no
Easy. LSU, when they put that tiger next to the opponent's tunnel right before the game, and you know, I was in there. They won a national championship the year we beat them down there, and Skylar Green caught a punt, man. As soon as he caught the punt, man, that stadium went crazy. It's like they knew he was going to return it on us, and he did. And you know, LSU, I tell people all the time how they shake your bus when you get to the stadium and all that, man. LSU's different. You know, Florida State's different, but at LSU, them fans are out here.
Yeah, they're crazy. One last thing, I'm just curious. I meant to ask you this when we were talking about the Vikings. I know y'all played indoors, but how was it adjusting being a Florida boy up in that cold weather up in Minnesota?
Man, I hate it. I never got used to it. I remember my first day, the last month of April after the draft, reporting for rookie training camp, and I'm rookie mini camp, and I get there and it's 10 degrees outside of snow. I'm like, man, it is April. It is the end of April, man. And, you know, I'm thinking we're going to go practice inside at our inside facility. And Mike Tice said, no, we got to get y'all rookies used to the cold. We're practicing outside. Oh, man, I hated it. I was like, I called my agent that day. It was my first day there. I was like, hey, I don't know if I can play in the cold. I'm not used to this. Hey, see if you can get me traded to a Florida team. I don't care where it's at.
Hey, Wednesday, do you get back to many of the games here in Gainesville?
Yeah, I try to make two a year just because of the youth football schedule. But this year, you know, it's going to be more. I kind of put some more bodies around me so I could get to more games, so I could start enjoying my life again.
Yeah, because most of your youth games are played on Saturdays, huh?
Yep. But, you know, now my kids not playing youth ball no more. They all about to be adults. So now I'm for the start. Me and the wife is about to start riding to the games.
That's a good deal. Well, Ciatrick, man, we wish you a lot of luck. And one more time, let everybody know, if they're listening over in the Jacksonville area, how they can get their kids involved in your program.
You could go to Star Rated Athletes on Facebook. You go to Star Rated Athletes on Twitter, and Star Rated Athletes on Instagram, and starratedAthletes.com for a website. And if it's not my website is not updated, you could just go to any of the social media pages and you can talk to me. You can message me. And if you want to know my personal page, it's Ciatrick Fason on Facebook, and it's the picture with me and my wife on it, and you can inbox me that way.
Well, you were a star here at the University of Florida C4. We appreciate you joining the program. Stay safe over there, buddy, and we'll be checking out your young football teams.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Shane. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. That's Ciatrick Fason, C4, joining us on the Titan MR hotline. We're going to take our final time out of the program. When we come back, we're going to wrap up this show, talk a little bit about what we got next week. You're watching and listening to Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back.
Time out! Time out! Hey! Time out! Time out! Time out! There we go. Good.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills.
Let's give them something to cheer for now.
Our gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. The Best Restoration, Masters of Disasters. Pound Hurt, your preferred personal injury attorneys. Peachland Dental, Gator fans' first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Celebration Point Town Center, The Keys Grill and Piano Bar, The Digital Mortgage Guy, Adams Ribs, Cloud9 Spa, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Center State Bank, Gator Bait Media, Davis Gainesville Chevrolet, Miapa Latin Cafe, Gators Dockside, Aikido America Martial Arts and After School,
Doreen Wiebe Realtor. Caldwell Banker MM Parish.
Radwear, Wrap Spot,
And Style Cuts.
If you are interested in promoting your business on this show, you can visit our website, potupwithshane.com, and click on the advertise button or call Freddie at 352-284-3733. Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
He's looking, still looking. He's going for the end zone. He's got a touchdown.
Well, welcome back. Caught up with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. At Celebration Point, it's where the Gators come to celebrate. With premium brands like Bass Pro Shop, Palmetto Moon, Skechers, Starbucks, The Keys Grill and Piano Bar, Select Shades, Regal Cinemas, and coming soon, the HBC's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Visor's Rooftop Bar. We will see you at Celebration Point, where the Gators come to celebrate. And y'all know what time it is now. It's time for This Day in Sports, which is brought to you by the Best Restoration. Do you have COVID-19 concerns? Do what everyone is doing. Hire the Best Restoration to fully sanitize and sterilize your home or office. Visit their offices this week for a free bottle of hand sanitizer when you mention the code SHANE. Call them at 352-234-8994. That's the Best Restoration. This Day in Sports, way back in 1927, it was the first Ryder Cup, where the U.S. defeats Great Britain 9.5 to 2.5, and Walter Hagen was the American captain. That was a long, long time ago. Tomorrow's program, we had a little shift there. DeMarco was actually out on a golf trip, got his dates mixed up. So Chris DeMarco will go next Friday. We're going to substitute. We got Michael Collins from ESPN, the old caddy, very funny guy. He'll be on along with Deke Story, former offensive lineman for the National Championship Gators under Steve Spurrier. I'm going to give you a little rundown of our Gator guests next week. We're going to have number 19, Ike Hilliard, join the program, who's now the wide receiver coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Jesse Palmer. I think he's the only Canadian that we've ever had play football here. But obviously Jesse is a very famous broadcaster now, not only with sports, but does all these like daily TV mail shows or something like that. Jason Odom, former offensive lineman from here, played as a true freshman back in 1992 and then went on to play with the Bucks. Wayne Peace, former quarterback. And as I said, Chris DeMarco. We got some good different media folks next week as well. We're going to have Scott Moore from the Panhandle. His show is I Talk SEC. Obviously, we'll have Buddy Martin on his Buddy Martin Tuesdays. Heath Klein from Columbia, South Carolina. Good old Brent Beer from Jacksonville. Always has full knowledge of what's going on in the college football world. Then we're going to have good old Larry Vitale join us from New York. Used to be a big sports guy here in the Gainesville area. But what a week. We had some great folks here on our show. Again, please, if you have not followed us on Facebook, please follow us. Have your friends follow us. You can also check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. We got some, let's see here. Jan says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Pound Hurt, preferred business interruption attorneys. Always enjoy hearing what the Gators are doing to give back. Thank you. Great interview. Very entertaining. Thanks, Shane. We thank you for listening. And yes, Ciatrick's doing great things over in the Jacksonville area for those young kids. If one of your businesses or you know someone that may want to be a sponsor on our show, we had 9 spots left, but we're already down to 8, I believe, maybe 7. I'm not, so spots are filling up fast. But that's going to be pretty much a wrap for today's show. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. We got Michael Collins and Deke Story. Great lineup next week. Enjoy your day. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Take care.